everyone, it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be talking about 6 more books that I have read recently. I know I've been doing a lot of recent reads videos lately, but that is because I've been reading a lot, and I still really like doing them because like it's something different every time because I'm talking about 6 different books. Now, I have had really good luck with liking my reads lately, but this time around I do have a couple that I didn't like so much, which it's bound to happen sometimes, so I'm okay with that. But I do have 6 books of all sorts of different genres that I'm really excited to share with you guys today. So today's video is kindly sponsored by Function of Beauty. They are a custom hair care brand, and I've been using it for like about a year now and have really enjoyed it because everyone's hair has its own unique needs, and mine definitely has very unique needs, so I love the fact that I can just put whatever I want in there. These are my bottles right here. I did a pink color and like a green color, a seafoam green, and I also used the stickers that they send for the first time ever, and they are so cute. They make me really happy. Also, you get to put your name on it. Like, it's entirely customizable. I really love it. And this time around, I also got their hair serum, which works so well. My hair is very thirsty. She is super dry, and this is just perfect for that. In case you guys aren't familiar with them though, Function of Beauty allows you to take this hair care quiz where you will choose your hair type, your hair profile, and then you choose 5 hair goals that you would like. And from there, they make your shampoo and conditioner, and you get to, like I said, change the color, put your name on it. It is awesome. For my 5 goals, I chose anti-frizz, deep condition, curl definition because I need some help, like they need some help going along, lengthening, and thermal protection because I've been using my Dyson Airwrap, so I would like to have some heat protectant built in because I don't always remember to spray heat protectant. So I've been super happy with my formula, and you also get to choose the scent, and I love choosing a scent, and you get to choose the strength of it. I always do strong because I love a good strong scent. In the past, I have done the peach scent, but this time around I decided to do the pear scent, and I'm super happy with it. It is really nice. I find that it definitely has helped with my curls. My hair seems to be more moisturized and feel a lot healthier, and I've been really happy with my experience overall. It has been great. Not only do you get to customize everything, but it also is a product that you can feel good about because it uses clean ingredients. There are no toxins, parabens, or GMOs, and no sulfates, and it's 100% vegan and cruelty-free, which is awesome. So if you guys were interested in checking out Function of Beauty, you can click the link in my description box down below, and it will give you 20% off of your first order. I definitely recommend checking it out. I think it's great to have a shampoo and conditioner that works for exactly what you are looking for with your hair, rather than using like a bunch of different products to try and get everything I need. It's all in one, and it's all in the shower too, so it is just super simple and great. And thank you once again to Function of Beauty for sponsoring today's video. So now getting to the books that I've read recently. So if there was a specific book out of these that you were looking to hear about, I will have timestamps in the description box down below so you can just skip right to that, but I will be keeping this all spoiler free, just like a mini review wrap up sort of thing as per usual. And we're just gonna start off with a book that I would say is my least favorite of the ones on here, unfortunately. But that book is The Light Between Worlds by Laura E. Weymouth. So I had really wanted to read this book. I've had it for a very long time, like years and years, and I had started it before and I just never really got very far into it, and I didn't know why, but I decided finally, I was like, no, we are gonna do it. We are gonna read this book. So I finally read it, and I was very let down. Like, there were multiple points where I thought I might unhaul this book, and I decided to keep it because the cover, the concept, it sounded amazing. It sounded like it was going to be fun and whimsical, but I totally missed something here because this was completely different than what I was expecting. So I knew that this was kind of Narnia-esque. It follows characters who have gone to this like fantastical fictional world, and I don't know if fictional world is really the word that I'm looking for, like more of like a wonderland. Like basically they went to the woodlands, which is kind of like a Narnia-esque world, and they now have come back and they are adjusting to life and trying to like be in actual society rather than this magical world that they had gotten used to. They also went to that world when it was like World War II during the London Blitz, so you can see where the comparisons to Narnia come. There's also like this stag character that is pretty much Aslan. Like, there are definitely a lot of similarities there. Sometimes I feel like too much, but my main issue with this one was it just was not what I was expecting. And I guess that's kind of a me thing, but I feel like from the cover, I was expecting something like totally different. So in the first half, you're getting the perspective of the youngest sister, and then in the second half, you get the older sister. And this is like very heavily dealing with depression and with mental health, and self-harm is also mentioned. Like, there are numerous trigger warnings, so just be aware of that before going into it. But I, after finishing this book, was like, wow, I need something like happy. I need something light, because it totally dragged me down and I wasn't expecting that. It just was like, I don't really mind books that deal with depression. I don't really find personally that they trigger me, but the issue was like there were not really many moments of hope. It just like kept on going down and down, and it was just really emotional and super, super heavy, which made it very hard for me to read personally. That being said, I found the concept to be intriguing, but the execution of it was very lackluster and bland, to be honest. Like, there are portions that are told when they're in the woodlands, and I didn't find that those, like, I ever really got a grasp of what happened there. Like, I did, but I felt disconnected. I didn't feel like it really added a ton to the story. I just had a lot of trouble connecting to things. I didn't like how it was jumping around so much and very abruptly, and how it was just such a bleak story overall. Like, even in the moments in the woodlands, I didn't feel like it was like optimistic or like this bright world. It just felt very dark. Like, everything was just super, super dark and heavy. I do have another book by this author, and I think I will like give it a go, because I just think this one didn't work for me. I had a hard time grasping onto things because you kept on jumping around and there wasn't really any grounding for the story. Like, I think the main issue with the present, like, historical time following, especially in the first half, following that character who felt like she had no grounding. She felt like she was somewhere that she didn't belong because she wanted to go back to the fictional world so badly. That just made the jumping around like very jarring. So I don't know, like, I felt like when we switched to the other sister, I wasn't really connected to the first one in the first place, so then I just felt like I didn't have anything to hold on to, I guess, and it just left me not really enjoying this at all. So I'm really sad about that, but I am glad that I finally have read it because I've had it for so long, but unfortunately, it just wasn't for me. So like I said, from there, because it really dragged me down, I was looking for something more happy, more upbeat, and more positive. And I actually asked some friends for a recommendation, and normally this is when I would turn to a contemporary, but the main recommendation was actually for an adult fantasy, so I decided to go for it, and that was The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. So I had heard amazing things about this book last year, and I decided to pick it up entirely on a whim, and I did really like this one. It wasn't what I expected, but I did enjoy it. However, I think my expectations were too high. I think it was a little bit too hyped up for me. That being said, this did fulfill like the cuteness that I was looking for. However, it did also have some sadness to it, which made me like really sad. I just needed something super, super uplifting, and this was, but I just kind of wanted something like entirely lighthearted and uplifting. So that's my bad, I think. Oh, that being said though, I did really enjoy this. I just think it was a case where like I was expecting to absolutely fall head over heels in love with it, and I didn't quite make it there. But it was full of charming characters that you can't help but love, adult and child alike. Like, you follow this main character who, the world is very interesting. I'm still not sure I really understand it, to be honest, but there are these children who have magical abilities, and it's like these people with magical abilities, they are like completely outcast by society, so they're kept in these orphanages to contain them pretty much. And the main character, he goes to these orphanages all the time to make sure that the children are being treated properly. So he ends up getting a special assignment, and he ends up having like very interesting subjects at that orphanage. And it's such a pleasure to watch this character like interact with the other characters and see it's just full of love, and like there's a little touch of romance in there too. There is a queer romance, and it was just so heartwarming in the end. Like, I loved the interactions between the characters. I loved the characters, and I loved the world too. It was such an interesting setting and like totally unexpected, because these kids have like very different abilities, very strange abilities that I wasn't expecting at all, and it was really cool to get lost in that. This kind of makes me think of Miss Peregrine's, but for adults in a way, and I think that it really deals with like the main character isn't very happy in the beginning. He's just drudging through the routine of everyday life because he has to. He's doing what he has to do to survive and to get through it, and it's kind of watching him going from like getting through every day to living and thriving every day, and it is such a lovely transformation to watch. And I found that it really made me think too, like it was very contemplative in that way, where I was like, am I just trudging through life? Like, am I living life to the fullest? I thought it made me really appreciate the little things. I think this is a totally unique read, and I do get the hype, but at the same time, I think it was a little bit much for me, but it was totally worth the read. Like, I would highly recommend it. I had a blast with it. It's just, you know, expectations were a bit too high. I don't really know why from there I went to this next book, because like I still kind of had a craving for something lighthearted, but this definitely wasn't lighthearted. But I ended up picking up One of the Good Ones by Maika Moulite and Maritza Moulite. So this is by the authors of Dear h.leblanc, which I read last year and I did like, and they have a very distinctive writing style, and this definitely came through in this book as well. So you follow sisters, and these two sisters are mourning the loss of their other sister, who was a very well-known activist. She had a YouTube channel. She just worked very hard on social justice issues, and she ends up being murdered, and there's a lot of mysterious circumstances surrounding her death, and you're dealing with them grieving and also kind of like exploring more of that. And in her honor, they end up going on a road trip that she had planned, which was this historical trip where they would go across America on a road trip following the Green Book. So they are following that book, which is a book that outlined like the safe places for Black people to travel, especially throughout the South. This was really educational. I learned a lot historically like about that book that I didn't really know about, and I learned a lot about the experiences of these characters and their ancestors. Now, my thing was this jump, like I don't want to say a lot about this book because it kind of has an interesting element to it that I feel like I don't really want to acknowledge because it might spoil things. Like, I think you should just go into it knowing like it's not exactly what it seems and go from there. Like, it reads like a typical contemporary, but it's not. So it does jump around a lot, and I found that to be very interesting. There were like a lot of threads that I didn't really know how they were going to connect, but when they did, I was like, wow, like I was very interested in how that happened, and I was like, was not expecting that. But I think it did a really good job of like sharing the message that the authors wanted to share. I did really enjoy the perspectives of the sisters and the perspectives in general. However, you don't get the perspective of the one sister, Jenny, and I wish that you had gotten that. I think that it would have added more. Like, not that that's really a detriment. I just kind of wish that you had the complete well-roundedness to it, because I felt like she would have had an intriguing perspective on things as well. I think all the historical information that you get in here was really well integrated into the story. As you're jumping around to these different characters and two different historical periods, it did all make sense, and it didn't feel jarring at all, which was interesting because like there was a lot going on, but I do think it came together and was well done. Overall, this honestly wasn't what I was expecting, but like not in a bad way. It just completely like changed, did a 360, I don't know, like 180, I guess 360 it would come right back to where it was, but like, you know what I mean. It just wasn't a typical contemporary, and I think that it definitely is an interesting book and worth the read. Very informative, and also like just, I don't really want to say that much else because I don't want to spoil things, but yeah. So from reading that book, I moved on to another contemporary, and once again, not really like the lighthearted book that I was expecting it to be, but that was Love and Olives by Jenna Welch. I guess I knew this one wasn't going to be entirely lighthearted because I have read her other books. This is the third installment in the Love and series, I guess, sort of thing. So she has Love and Gelato is the first one, and then Love and Luck is the second different ones. So the first one is set in Italy, the second one is set in Ireland, and this one is set in Greece. I loved Greece, honestly. Like, being transported there was so lovely because it's one of the places that I've never gotten the chance to go to, but I would love to go to one day, and this totally brought me there. Now, you are following the main character who, like, these are travel contemporaries, but they also have a deeper element to them. And in this one, you follow the main character whose father she was like very close with, and then he left unexpectedly when she was younger, and he's never come back. And now she receives notice that National Geographic is sponsoring a documentary that he is doing on Atlantis and finding Atlantis, which is something that he has been very obsessed with and something that they have bonded over. So he invites her out to help with this documentary, even though they haven't seen each other in like years and years and years and not really spoken either. And she goes to Greece, and that is essentially the story. Now, one thing, this book does have, like, she's dating someone in the beginning, but like the love interest goes another way. I don't really think that's spoilery. Like, you kind of know because she leaves in the very beginning, but I didn't feel like it was necessary for her to have that previous boyfriend. I didn't think it really added that much. Like, I did get it in a way, but I don't think it was entirely necessary for that relationship to continue while she was away. But I did enjoy the love interest that she had. Like, I felt like they were well matched. The Atlantis part of this was super interesting. Like, I don't really know a lot about that, but I felt like I was like on a journey with them, trying to find all these clues and put together like this Atlantis treasure hunt, and like, is it actually real? Like, that part was super well done, very immersive. And like I said, the setting too completely transported me. But I do think this is my least favorite of the three because it took a while for me to kind of get semi on board with the story. I see how things came together in the end, but it just took a little bit to get there. And I had issues connecting with the characters and the story the entire time. And I think that the setting is like, if this had just been set anywhere and there wasn't the Atlantis element, I would not have really enjoyed this. This book is definitely the longest of the three, and honestly, I felt like it was unnecessarily long. It's like 500 pages long. I think it's 500. It's either, yeah, it's 500 pages, and it didn't feel like it had to be 500 pages. There were a lot of moments where I felt like there were kind of like superfluous things happening and it could have been cut a little bit, so I do think it was a little bit too lengthy, and maybe that's because I wasn't 100% on board with it, that I feel like it was too long. But I just felt like there were a lot of parts where I felt like I was kind of trudging through. Now, this does take a turn in the end, and it does deal heavily with mental health issues and anxiety and bipolar disorder as well. There are numerous things that, like, numerous triggers that might be in here, so do be aware of that. But I do think it was worth the read. Like, I didn't hate it. I just would say, having my expectations high from the other two, I didn't fall in love with it like I was expecting to. This did have what I was expecting, what she's done with the previous books, where you have this romance and it's set in like a travel setting, and you have a more serious element to it, which I think was overall well done. I just think that it was too long and the main character kind of frustrated me at points, but I did enjoy her romance. It just, I don't know. There was something about this one that I didn't quite connect with like I had the other books, but it was still like really good and I think worth the read. I did like it. So moving from there, I decided that I needed something short and fast-paced since I kind of had trouble with Love and Gelato and I felt like the pacing was a little bit off for me. So I decided to go with, this is kind of an epic love story by Callender. So Kacen Callender is the author of Felix Ever After, which was one of my favorite books that I read last year. I totally fell in love with it, and really unfortunately I did not fall in love with this one. It just frustrated me so much. It was not a happy reading experience. You follow the main character who is still in love with his best friend. She was his best friend and then his girlfriend, and now is his ex-girlfriend and best friend again, but obviously that's kind of complicated because he still is in love with her. She decides that he needs to find someone else, and there's this new guy who he knew before who ends up coming back, and they like strike up a relationship again. So it's a second chance romance in a way, and there are things that I really liked about it, but for the most part I found it super frustrating. Like, there are some times when I can deal with an unlikable character, but I just found that everyone was very messy and the story itself was messy, which did make sense in a way, but it just was so infuriating. Like, one of the most irritating things for me was the amount of like infidelity and cheating in this story, and a lot of it felt very unnecessary. There were points where like there was one instance and then like 2 pages later or something there was another, and I was like, wait, what? So I had to like flip back and make sure that I read that right, but I did. Like, I just felt like there was too much cheating for me to like get behind the characters. I did love the romance. Like, I really enjoyed watching Nate and Ollie and their romance develop. I love a second chance romance, but it was just the lack of communication could be super, super frustrating. Like I said, I did like things. Like, overall, their romance was very sweet and cute, and the moments that it was sweet and cute were great. And I also loved the representation for the deaf and hard of hearing community. So Ollie communicates in sign language, and I thought that that was primarily in sign language. I thought that that was really like well done. I thought that it was well integrated into the story, and I loved seeing that representation. I think the main detriment for me was the fact that I enjoy an unlikable character when there are other characters that I love and can root for, but there really were no characters that I completely enjoyed and didn't really have an issue with. I found a lot of them to be like insufferably annoying at times, and the moments of cute friendship and of romance were kind of overshadowed by my annoyance of the characters as individuals. So unfortunately for this one, I feel like the things that I did like were kind of outweighed by what I didn't like, and it just left me feeling very upset that I didn't enjoy this one as much as I loved Felix Ever After. So this one was a miss for me, but I don't think it's a bad book. I think it's just like personal preference. I enjoy likable characters, and this wasn't what I got here. And the final book for this recent reads video is The Blackbird Girls by Blankman. So this is by the author of Prisoner of Night and Fog, which I really enjoy. It's one of my favorite historical fictions, and this one I didn't know was middle grade going into it, but it is indeed middle grade. It's been out for a little bit, but it just came out in Canada. Like, I pre-ordered it, and my pre-order just came in at the beginning of the month, but I don't know why it took so long to come out in Canada, but oh well, I have it and I have read it. So this one deals with the Chernobyl disaster, and I had never read anything about that, so that definitely had me really intrigued in this story. And it's told between a perspective, like 2 perspectives from that, and also a perspective from World War II, following a young Jewish girl who is fleeing for her life. So there is a lot of anti-Semitism. This is another book that actually has quite a few trigger warnings. So anti-Semitism is very prevalent in the story, as well as child abuse, both emotional and physical. So just do be aware of those things before going into this story. But it is kind of a story about how friendship prevails against the backdrop of those things. Now, this one didn't entirely like impress me. I don't want to say impress me, that sounds really bad, but like I didn't really love this one as much as I had hoped I would, because I felt like there was a point where Chernobyl and the information about that kind of fell into the background, and the story could have been set anywhere and really in any time period. And I kind of wanted to learn more about the after effects of such a terrible disaster. You're following 2 young girls who their fathers actually worked in the reactor that exploded, and you're seeing their friendship develop when they've been like, the one girl bullies the other, and you're kind of understanding why that happened. And you do get like a lot of information about what's happening in the situation in the very beginning, but then it kind of just like petered out. And I did like where the story went, but I just kind of wanted a little bit more from it. There also is, like I mentioned, that interwoven perspective from World War II, which I understood why it was there, and I have mixed feelings on it. Like, overall, I kind of have mixed feelings on this book, because there are things that I liked that it did, but then there are things that I'm kind of like meh about. And the World War II perspective, I understood why it was there, and I did like what it did overall, but I also felt like it kind of didn't reach its full potential, which I think is overall my issue with this book. When I found out it was a middle grade, I was kind of nervous, not because like I think middle grade means it's a bad book or anything. I just kind of have mixed feelings on middle grade sometimes. I think it is a little bit too young for my personal reading preferences, but this didn't really read like a middle grade entirely. Like, it definitely doesn't flinch away from any of the terribleness of the situation that these characters are going through. So that was nice. I think the overall friendship message of this story was really great. I learned a lot while reading it. It just kind of, like I said, didn't reach the potential that I quite had wanted it to. But watching Valentina and Oksana form this friendship, and especially with Valentina's grandmother, like I liked when they got to that point. I felt like it was interesting to watch them blossom, get some backstory on things. I just kind of wanted a little bit more from it. So those are all the books that I have read recently. So hopefully I can continue my reading in March and I will have more books to talk to you guys about soon. But I hope you enjoyed hearing about these books. Please do let me know if you have read any of them, your thoughts on them, because I would love to know. And thank you very much to Function of Beauty for sponsoring today's video once again. Don't forget to check them out in the link in the description box down below. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in a new video soon. Bye!